just joining us, we are broadcasting live from, of course, Dallas, Texas, Chiropassion Consulting weekend with Dr. Joe Borio and the crew. My name is Dr. Liam Schubel, Vice Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Sherman College of Chiropractic, located in the beautiful foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Sparkle City, Spartanburg, South Carolina. To my stage right is Dr. Frankie Hahn, the screening ninja, of course, board member of IFCO. And we are going to be broadcasting for probably another half hour, 40 minutes. If you're joining us, please share this message on social media. Let people know that the great Joe Borio is about to arrive on stage and be live with us, sharing his gems of wisdom. Of course, he's been made up. He's setting the trend again in fashion. Dr. Borio?
Dr. Borio.
Yes, back from Milano, I see.
Yeah, I see, yes. I did a little bit of history on my lineage, and there's some royal blood, so I thought I would dress appropriately for the...
A pharaoh.
Yes. Egyptian.
Congratulations on being Egyptian. I didn't know that. Well,
Ramses, you've heard of Ramses.
Yes, I have.
So,
yes. On those small packages.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, very good. Welcome to the program. I see it's going to be another one of those.
Yes, one of those.
Can't wait to get started.
Programs. Me neither.
Get ready, guys.
Listen, you guys are dying over here. I was trying to liven it up a little bit.
You lit it up for us already. As you do, creating value for the
always, everywhere. Don't worry where it is.
Dr. Borio.
Yes, Liam Schubel.
Just want to let you know I'm Vice Chairman of the Board of Trustees if you just joined us.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That's amazing.
So, Dr. Joe Borio a trustee?
He's a trustee as well, yes.
Yes, that's right.
He serves on the Board of Trustees.
Right.
He has the pleasure to serve on the Board of Trustees.
Yes, I do.
He's
Privilege.
also IFCO member.
Is he?
And a townie in the Vico del Garno.
Right.
Vico del
Absolutely.
Garno.
I heard a lot about your villa.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Yeah.
a good time.
Good time. So you are here this weekend in Dallas, and you are doing this thing called Chiropractic Consulting.
Yes, I
Is that
am.
correct?
Yes, I am.
Well, tell us a
Dr.
little
Schubel.
bit about the foundation of that. Where did that come from? What are you doing that for?
We were exactly. That's a question I ask myself a lot of times.
Believe me,
You
I
know
ask
what I'm
myself
saying?
that about Schubel Vision every day.
It seemed like a great idea. Well, I'm doing really well in practice. I want other people to do well, so I'll just show other people what I do, and everyone will do well.
And they'll be happy about it. How's that going? They'll follow through with all your recommendations.
Greg asked me how they go. Yeah, well, you realize that that a lot of things that are holding people back have nothing to do with chiropractic.
Right.
You realize that a lot of that is personal growth. Their own lack of confidence, their ability to articulate or communicate. That's where many times the challenge is. So you get people that are enthusiastic about chiropractic. You get people that are very knowledgeable about chiropractic, but they themselves lack in many ways. And I say that with respect, but they lack that confidence.
Sure.
So your ability to influence somebody else and lead somebody else on a new paradigm, a totally different idea, boy, now you're really dead in the water. So a lot of people are unfortunately struggling in chiropractic, way too many, and they come out of school and you get ego in the way, so it's like, well, I'm not going to have anybody help me, I want to learn it. And I always find that odd because you didn't become a chiropractor on your own. You hired essentially for a few $100,000 other people that are experts, authorities in other disciplines to teach you. So why not hire other people when you get out of school? Now you need to learn to open an office. How do you run an office? How do you hire somebody? How do you set up your marketing? How do you know all this? I mean, you do this yourself. So that's where a lot of people walk in and they have no idea. Yet they want to figure it out on their own. Why would you do that with a $300,000 investment and then come out?
No way.
That's crazy, but that's what a lot of them do. So.
Yeah, and Joe, you and I are both tremendously big businessmen,
Sure,
right? And
sure.
We travel
Sure.
on jets and things like
Yes,
that.
yeah.
So one of the things I've noticed about
I drove here, by the way. But go ahead.
One of the things I've
limo?
noticed about big business and hanging around with other big businessmen is that there's no shame in having a consultant come in who's more knowledgeable on what it is that you may be weak on. For example, in my accounting world, I don't handle the accounting myself. I have a consultant for my accounting. I have a consultant for my marketing. I have a consultant for my law. My law issues. So consulting is something that successful people do on all the time.
100%. Yeah.
And kind of like if I'm going into the chiropractic world and I don't have experience in taking care of people and doing it successfully, I think the logical step would be hey, let me see if I can hire a consultant to
Correct.
help me move to a higher level. And that's, I think, the reason that Chiropassion would exist, to serve that need.
Absolutely. You know, the other challenge you run into, and I know you've heard that as well. Consultants, that word a lot of times has the connotation of a negative.
Yeah.
And so what happens is you have a group of people that join a consulting program. The consulting program will put information out there, and we have Tuesday webinars, and as I know you do webinars and you're teaching people and so forth. And then some people don't do well. And then what happens is they leave and say, well, geez, I spent all this money, and I'm not getting those results. But again, that's certainly the challenge of the student. I look at us as a mentor, as a teacher. If you're not showing up for class, and if you're not doing your homework, I can't join a gym membership and expect other things to change in my physical health unless I'm putting my time into the gym.
Right.
So I think that's another, that's a challenge for the consultant as well, to stay engaged, to stay as excited, enthusiastic teacher as well. But again, it's difficult because you're dealing with so many other people that get into chiropractic, and I love chiropractic. When I get out of school, well, I don't want to do that. I want to practice my way or my chiropractic.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to open up a successful coffee shop, my example is wouldn't you mentor, wouldn't you model on some level Starbucks? That's
Sure.
a successful franchise.
Yeah.
But no, a lot of chiropractors don't do that. They're
No.
like, well, I don't want to do anything that somebody else is doing. If somebody's successful in some way, they're often looked at as they're doing something wrong, or there's a challenge there, or that's not the type of chiropractic that person wants to practice. And that's sad too, because again, if you're not successful, people want you to be successful. If God made you as a chiropractor, if the universe put you together as a chiropractor, they didn't put you together to suck. They put you together to be well and be highly successful. And why not take advantage of those tools from other people that are doing well, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You can, you're not going to discover a new adjusting techniques. You're going to study the adjusting techniques of great chiropractors before you. Same idea. Why not study the business, if you will, techniques and skills? And that's what I heard you talking about earlier. There's laws and principles within the practice, just like there are with chiropractic. Study those, own those, you'll do well in practice.
Now, you started with a silver chiropractic spoon in your mouth.
Yes,
I
did.
You went to the fountainhead of Chiropractic National College, and and of course you learned chiropractic there, and then you had a successful practice. Prostate checking, or what were you doing? And then
we were doing colonoscopies, essentially colonics, and that was National College of Colonics, we call it. So.
And so then, at what point did you say, there might be something? What drove you to say, hey, there might be something other than colonics here in this chiropractic thing that I could
Nothing in school.
Investigate.
Nothing in school. I went to a chiropractor when I was a kid. Had a great change in my health. So when I went to chiropractic school, I was much more of a chiropractor than when I came out of National.
Interesting.
So then when you come out of National, now I'm in an allopathic, very mechanistic mindset. Okay. And then it's a treatment therapy type mentality. Yeah. And then really through the lack of success, where I met Brian Kozlow Management, who was a consultant, and he brought in, he himself wasn't a chiropractor, but he brought in all these great speakers. Ian Grossman, I had heard earlier somebody talk about, Reggie Gold was who came in, and he was, he was awesome. So again, there was an energy, there was an excitement, there was an enthusiasm, there was a passion there that I myself didn't have. I was frustrated, I wasn't doing well. I had a big ego in the way of like, I'm going to do this myself, I'm going to figure it out myself. I was that guy that wasn't going to ask anybody for help. And 2 years later, and borrowed probably about 50-something thousand from my dad. And I kept telling Dad, don't worry, I'm almost there, Dad. I almost got this thing figured out. I learned from some greats, and then it was after that they really led me to understanding the philosophy and applying that in practice with pragmatic principles on how to communicate, how to
Who would you say were some of your mentors, or once you kind of started figuring out that this was not going the right direction, who's some of the people who pointed you in the right direction?
Sure. Reggie Gold was instrumental. I worked with C.J. Mertz. He was with Waiting List Practice at the time.
Right.
He was definitely procedure a protocol guy.
Right.
Didn't have those in my office. Reggie was definitely the story, the philosophy, understanding
Right.
the mission, the purpose. And then after that, I'd worked with guys like Bob Schiffman, Fred Schofield was great, Ian Grossman, Sid Williams, going down to
Right.
DE. And then hanging out with, which I heard somebody else speaking about as well, hanging out with other successful people. There's a line, Tony Robbins said it, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but you'll always raise your standard to that of your peer group. So if your peer group has high standards, you'll immediately raise those standards. It was an interesting story you told when one of the generals that ran the Marines, he said, I don't understand why the Marines, when they're in the Marine Corps, they are absolutely at their best. They are awesome. He said, but when they leave the Corps, I can't tell you the number of guys I run into, cadets, that when they leave the Corps, their life has fallen apart. Why?
That's a great point.
And
Yeah.
he said, well, because the peer group has such high standard, they'll raise themselves to the standard. So what's your peer group? Are you around doers, problem solvers? Are you around critics? Are you around people that are going to tell you, no, you can't do it? Are you around visionaries? One of your big lines, obviously, which is awesome. The bigger the vision, the bigger your life. But it can't be just your vision, right? You want to be around, surround me around 6 or 7 other people with huge vision, and all of a sudden you're going to do really, really well. So those are the guys that made a big difference in my life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so you surrounded yourself with awesome people that were rocking it.
Yes.
And you just modeled after them, and they were leaving clues, I suspect. And
Yes.
that is what pretty much helped you. And so
Yes.
that's what we were trying to teach the students last night, to model after those successful people,
Yes.
not the unsuccessful ones.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how you're practicing in your office, the technique, that's the person you want to model after who's successful at that particular style.
Right.
And-
I will tell you the point that it just fires in my head when we're having this conversation. And when we say successful, it's not just money; it's the
Exactly right.
impact. I
Yes.
like to look at that as impact. Am I having an impact? Am I relevant in what I'm doing as a chiropractor? Right. So think about the names we're throwing around here. Right. They practice chiropractic. I mean, that's the funny part. They
Right.
weren't multidisciplinary. I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying
right.
that office doesn't help people. I'm saying, the detox helps, exercise helps, nutrition, all those things are great. So I'm not knocking that. But when you look at those people that had the greatest degree of impact, dent the universe, in the words of Steve Jobs, those people are the people that went to the office and adjusted people for the sake of getting them a healthier nervous system. That's what they talked about. That's what they taught people. That was the paradigm shift that they tried to share with people. So, get back to that core and make it center stage, as D.D. Palmer said,
Right.
and that alone will bring you some success in practice.
Guys at home, we got a rock star on right now. Get your questions going.
It's not going to matter, obviously.
Well, I got to tell you, Joe,
Yeah.
one of the things I love, there's many things that I love about you and Chiropassion, is that you have a tendency to do this brilliantly. You marry the science and the philosophy of chiropractic, those two together, and in your communication style. Can
Yes.
you talk a little bit about how you do that so eloquently?
Well, one of the things I noticed when I was a student,
Yeah.
after school now, I mean, we're all still students, right? We're
Yeah.
still learning. So when you're a student and you sit, you're sitting in these chairs, we're setting up the room, and you're taking notes, viciously. I noticed that a lot of times I'd go to listen to somebody, and take Reggie, for example. Awesome, right? But Reggie would teach you this great philosophy. But a lot of times when you would leave, you wouldn't leave with nuts and bolts. You wouldn't leave with that pragmatic, how do I apply that in practice?
Yeah.
Some people, take a guy like Bob Schiffman. He's phenomenal. Like, you can't reproduce. Bob Schiffman can't
No
make
way.
somebody else Bob Schiffman.
No.
Right.
He's, God
Absolutely
made
brilliant.
one Bob Schiffman, right? So how do I leave a guy like Bob Schiffman, or how do I leave a guy like Reggie Gold, or how do I leave Ian Gratz? How do I walk away from that and able to apply it? It's difficult to do. The other challenge you have is here you have this intangible topic to talk about, right? Which is innate and universal intelligence. And then how do I communicate that in the practice without any science? Because we're mechanistic in many ways. So what I started to do is, when I lecture, I would always try to take 1 or 2 slides that were philosophical, 1 or 2 slides that were scientific, and 1 or 2 slides that were pragmatic. So here's the big picture philosophy, here's the science that relates to that, and then here's the way to apply that
Brilliant.
in
Right.
practice. So if you're talking about innate intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about something that's intangible. You ask people what it is, and then you talk about, okay, here's a plant, which is one of the examples we use. You ask them questions and such, and then you ask them scientific questions. The one thing that everybody knows chiropractic.
Sure they
Everybody
do.
knows
Yeah.
what it is. Hey, what tells your body what to do? Everybody knows. I mean, no one says my elbow, right? I mean, some people might say your ass, but they're obviously upset with that. But in reality, everybody knows the brain. Well, how does your brain talk to your body? I mean, you just ask, everybody knows it. So why not just ask them what they already know,
Right.
and then just ask them what, if I press on it, what happens? They already know. They will all give you the exact answer without ever sitting through a lay lecture of what
Right.
chiropractic is. So they already know what chiropractic is. They all so-called believe in it, which is great. You don't have to believe in it because it's a scientific fact. So they already know that as well. Now it gets into connecting your value as a chiropractor in their life to keep them healthy.
Right.
That's the gap.
I know a great thing that you do also, tools, tips, and strategies, but you also try to make the person better. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, how do you, when you're coaching your people, how do you make the person improve themselves as opposed to just do what you do?
Right.
There's one more step in there.
Absolutely. Well, again, going back, I definitely made the mistake, and I don't know if you went through that journey yourself, Liam, with your program as well, and teaching people, and certainly you've got all these clinics all over the world, so you're obviously having to mentor and teach them too, right? Because they're students, they get out and so forth. So one of the big mistakes I made, like I said earlier, is I said, well, I just have to show these people what I do, and they're just going to be able to duplicate that, and then that'll be easy. And then I realized, wow, again, it's that lack of confidence and such. So then it becomes through the science, because I think people lack the certainty in chiropractic. They fall in love with the idea of chiropractic, but they don't have that certainty, that clarity, that ability to articulate it in a mechanistic way that makes sense to the average person or to themselves. They need to be able to sell it to themselves.
Yeah, there's a certain kind of person, and that's the thing when you're coaching or mentoring people. There's a certain kind of person. For example, I have a person that works with me, and he's a wrestler, high-level wrestler. He's the kind of guy that you could say, this is blue, this is green, this is red. He goes,
Right.
okay, got it. Blue, read, red. I'm going.
Right.
No other explanation necessary.
Correct.
Boss said,
Correct.
this is what you do, and he executes and he produces at a high level every time, because
Correct.
anything that comes out of your mouth, he's
gonna
going to put into action.
Right.
Then there's the other type, which is what I call the highly educated, right? Where
Right.
they're going to ruminate on it.
Absolutely.
And
Analysis paralysis.
Yes. Let me see if I work at this angle. Or,
Right.
I know you said this, but maybe we could twist
Right.
it a little this way,
Right.
because that's more
Let
like
me
me.
bridle it back.
Right.
It's more comfortable for me.
Those kind of people are the biggest difficulty, I think,
Yes.
in reaching and getting
Yes.
deep down. And I actually had a conversation with someone I was coaching with the other day, and I said, this is not working for me. And I said, well, here's the challenge that we have, right? There's all these emotional push buttons that you have.
Yes.
So here I am trying to help, right?
Right.
I have to be very careful with the words I choose, because
Sure.
any word I choose is going to be an attack on you.
Right.
Other than, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great
Right.
job. You're doing a
Right.
great. And here's the
Right.
challenge that we have.
Right.
I think you could admit, seeing 2 people a week is not
Yes.
doing a great job.
Right.
So
Right.
maybe we have to find out
Right.
how we're going to move.
Right.
Like, be honest with ourselves. How do I work with you to make a change
Exactly.
where you don't feel like asking you to make that change is a personal attack on you.
Exactly.
Right. That's
Right.
That's I think what.
But they're thinking, hey, I did a great job in those 2 people.
That's exactly
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Yes.
So, oh my God, I did a great job.
That's right.
And I understand
Yes,
that, but let me
that's
ask
exactly.
you, what impact, what relevance, would you be more relevant? Would you be more impactful if you had 7 people?
Yes.
100 people, where do you want to be? What's your vision? How big of a dent do you want to leave? And
So there's a lot of psychology almost involved in that.
I have found that, in the years of coaching, I know Pete and Otto, we've talked about that. And again, I say this with respect,
Sure.
that so much of it comes down to the life coaching,
Yeah.
where I used to think 80% of it was procedural protocol,
Exactly.
80% of it is life coaching.
You got it.
And it's really about building people up in a way that they feel good about themselves, impactful, that they have a vision and a mission and a purpose that's so beyond their own insecurity, and that's what you have to rise them to. But it's it's a journey, because they're walking in to see you 30 years of who knows what.
Right.
I mean, you think about society. What do they say? Who do you think you are? I mean, society will say that as a kid, your teacher, your guidance counselor. Who do you think you are? You're immediately dismissing and minimizing somebody. So now they come out, they get this great vision, which is bigger than themselves, and it's like, well, geez, am I really the person to do it? Do I have the ability to do it? Who am I? And then you start to get into all those insecurities about chiropractic, and other people many times aren't open arms on chiropractic, so they start getting beat up a little bit, and they themselves, they don't have that security. All of a sudden, that starts getting eroded, and they're not going to the, the greens, the daily greens every day to hammer themselves up. Guess what happens? Next thing you know, like, well, I'll do this, or I'll start to model myself in a way that everyone else thinks is more acceptable.
Right.
But and that's the surest way, which I've heard you lecture on. It's the surest way to mediocrity. I mean, where you're going.
Do what everybody else is doing,
Right.
and that's not the future.
100%. I'll tell you the easiest way to know, and again I say this with respect, the easiest way to know how well their previous chiropractor is left a dent in them is ask them their name. You ever get that person walk in? Oh, I don't remember their name.
Right.
I mean, there's nobody that leaves my office that doesn't know Borio. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if they leave after a week and say, this guy's crazy, they know Dr. Joe Borio's crazy. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, who's this guy? What mark are you leaving out there? I don't, when I say I don't care, and I say that out of love, I don't care if you like me. Based on chiropractic. I mean, chiropractic is, I need to be the best teacher, educator, motivator, somebody who can inspire and aspire you to follow what your body was designed to be healthy. That's my job. That's my role. If you leave and don't follow through, then I look at that as a failure in my ability to bring that forth. But I'm not in the room crying, going, "Oh my God, Frank didn't like me." I mean, who cares?
Right.
Just get better at it. Have a better argument, if you will. And when I say argument, I mean have a better way to articulate what it is you do.
So in essence, we could say there's almost two key components in a coaching program is the nuts and bolts procedures, right? How to do it. But, and this is one of the things that's very much ignored in some programs. And I know in your program and at my program, people have said, I love this because this was a seminar that I didn't just get the procedure.
Right.
I got the mindset or the understanding that gave me the certainty
to
go into those procedures with a level of, as Sid used to say, boy, you got to learn how to talk with authority, right?
Exactly.
That whole thing. Whereas here, I got the 10 Commandments.
Right.
I'm giving them to you. You got a problem with that? You take it up with God because I'm just the messenger over here.
Exactly. Yeah. Or vice versa. I mean, one of the other things that's great about what you do, and I think what we do as well, is that we give them both.
Yes.
Where sometimes you can leave and you get all the great information about, feeling more confident and certain about what you do, but you're not giving me the nuts and bolts.
That's it.
So you leave and you're all excited and you go back, man, I'm ready to take on the world, but holy cow, I don't know what to do. So a week after the event, guess what? You're back to practicing exactly. And don't think your CAs aren't laughing at you. They're sitting there going, oh, what's up with Dr. Joe? He's all fired up. Well, he went to an event last week, so in a week or two, we'll be right back. Well, mistake number one, you didn't bring your staff, right? And mistake number two, you got to go to somebody who's going to teach you procedures and the science and that inspiration.
Have to make a change.
Absolutely. Or, what are you doing here? Right? Yeah. Because, if I don't teach you something different, if you go back Monday and you're doing the same damn thing, you're going to do the same damn thing. So, I remember
it's insane.
I've listened to a few people talk about the jacuzzi experience. It's got to be more than that. You want to have fun. Yeah, you want to rah-rah. I mean, and I don't mean to minimize it. That's important of anything.
Sure. Yeah.
But on top of that, you got to leave with something that's going to make you different inside, or you're just going to be the same person.
Absolutely.
Now, you have a lot of Parker students that are going to be here this weekend. You generously opened this up free of charge to them for the weekend. What are some of the things, because I know you speak to students all around the world, what are some of the common challenges that you see students suffering from that maybe the students that are watching here you could maybe address or say, hey, listen, you're in school now, here's kind of what you need to be focused on to hit the ground running when you go out and practice?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge most students have is their lack of certainty, the fear that starts to encroach, like, how am I going to pay for my loans? How am I going to pay for my office? How am I going to, how am I going to do this? How am I going to set the office up? Where am I going to set it up? All those questions that unfortunately start to come into their mind that last semester or when they get out. So that's a big part of it. The other challenge is many of the schools don't get the philosophy. So here they come out and they get this great education, which is mechanistic, and now they're coming out treating people rather than caring for them, is the way I always think about caring for their nervous system for a reason. So what we want to teach them, certainly every time we talk to them, as I know you do, I've listened to you talk many times, is giving them the philosophy, absolutely, and then giving them some practice tips so that when they leave, they can hit the ground running. They can say, okay, I've got a really strong hold of philosophy. I'm really clear on what my role is when I walk into the room and put my hands on somebody. That's much more clear to me. And I have some ideas on how to lay out the office, how to set up the office as far as a pragmatic layout, or how I'm going to communicate, set up some procedures to help educate people so that people start to not only engage with the practice but stay with the practice.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned that component of graduating from chiropractic college and being in a treatment mode, right?
Yeah.
And of course, there's a time and a place for treating things,
Sure.
But could you talk a little bit about this idea of transforming and evolving healthcare as we know it? We kind of have this understanding very clear right now that this system is not working for us. It's a crisis, it's broken,
Right.
and we're looking for leadership in healthcare. How do you see chiropractic positioning itself ethically, morally, and economically to lead that shift?
How do I see it? How should we position ourselves?
Yes.
We should definitely position ourselves with the real simple, the logic of that the promotion of your health is far superior, and that's the words of Bill Bain many years ago.
Oh, great.
Promotion of your health is far superior than the treatment of sickness and disease. And we are not there. We are not there. And many people... let's face it, you walk in, you're not feeling good, your back hurts, your neck hurts. I mean, it feels good to get an adjustment. And that's okay. Palmer said, we'd be nowhere without the results. But ending it there and not offering leadership, taking somebody and bringing them to a different understanding, that's the mistake. So when somebody comes in and says, my neck hurts, that's one way you can handle it. Hey, I'm going to crack it, pop it, adjust it, take pressure off. Hey, how's your neck feel? That's one way to handle it. But another way to handle it is, Frank, that's a concern because those nerves also affect your thymus and your thyroid and your esophagus. Do you realize those? Take a look at this chart. So not only is your neck hurting, but what's it doing to the integrity of those nerves? Right. How's it affect? So that's the real concern. Each and every time trying to raise their consciousness, they're never going to get it. Right. So if you keep raising their consciousness, the value of what you do now becomes, I'm getting adjusted to keep my organs and body healthy, not I'm getting adjusted because my neck hurts. Because guess what? You're going to care for them. Their neck's going to feel what? Better, and they what?
Leave.
They leave. Or they're going to come in and say, look, I'm going to come in 10 times, because 10 times last time, or I went to my friend last time, and it was 10 times. And if it's not feeling better in their magical number of 10 that they came up with, that they just picked out of the sky, right? Then they leave, right? If they feel a little bit sore, they leave. So we set the students up in practice to come out and set up a mechanistic treatment mentality for everyone to leave. So guess what? The buzzword in chiropractic, everybody needs new people. So now you're going to have a big practice. You got to bring in 100 new ones. Well, how about an idea of just keeping the people that you bring in by educating and raising their consciousness for lifetime wellness care?
Well, I was going to say that's exactly what we were referring to yesterday. We said the number one thing that you have to get good at is retaining your practice members. Right. And we were teaching them tools and tips and strategies on how to do that too.
Dentists don't, after a few years of practice, they don't accept new people.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, so we got to get to that point of, and that's where, you asked me a question about positioning.
Yeah.
That's where we need to position ourselves. We need to position ourselves that with clarity and certainty, with our philosophy and our science, and then with the art, obviously, of great adjusting. But those other aspects that are missing, the pillar of communication and running an office, so that people, when they come in, hey, listen, now I only need 4 or 5 people a month. My main job isn't going out every single weekend and, having to bring in a whole bunch of people. My God, what a stressful practice that is. It's like something I got to be on a perpetual diet for the rest of my life.
Well, we've positioned ourselves really as the experts in the alternative for back and neck pain.
Right.
We're not even the number one. We go first to the invasive procedure.
Correct.
Right. And then when that doesn't work, you come to the alternative, which is us, for back pain and neck pain. And when the back pain and neck pain goes away, so do you, and come back when it. And that's kind of incongruent with the science of the scientific studies that show that there is no limit to the amount of benefit that you can receive from chiropractic. So you're almost, in essence, this is the way I look at it, you're almost robbing a person of their future potential by telling them just that that
doing them a
neck and back
disservice.
pain story, right?
Absolutely.
Because again, there's a place for neck and back pain treatment, but you are certainly
you can
robbing
throw 'em in.
you're robbing a person's potential
Right.
of the future. And I think too, what about their children? What about if you're not telling that, and that's the thing we say, and people say, oh, you just say tell the story. What does
Right.
that mean?
Right,
Well,
exactly.
it means telling them the science behind
Right,
it, telling
right.
them the potential that you have when
Right.
what your life will look like if you're under regular chiropractic care. That's the story.
Right.
Heidi Havoc, one of the world's premier researchers
Yes.
in chiropractic out of New Zealand Chiropractic College, she was up in Norway, and she was doing a presentation of chiropractic scientific research to a group of neurobiologists. And after the event, they were coming up to her and they were saying, Dr. Havoc, everybody with cancer should have chiropractic care.
Right.
And it was like, not because it's a treatment for
Right,
cancer,
exactly.
but it's, hey, obviously, if you're having some kind of health challenge like cancer, you would want to make sure that the master control system of your body is communicating from your brain to your tissue
Correct.
cell at 100%. That only makes sense
Correct.
from the scientific literature.
Correct, but the challenge is number one, the chiropractors get frustrated because everyone comes in and it's like, how do we get out of that mechanistic neck and
You
back
got it.
pain problem? Well,
Yeah.
and again, with all due respect, the docs out there are perpetuating it. So they're like, well, okay, we're more about that. But when they come in, it's, how's your neck? How you feeling today? You follow what I'm
exactly,
saying?
yeah.
Why do they do that? Well, we start to live in a world of scarcity. We start to live in a world of coveting. We're like, oh my God, I'm so afraid if they leave, my numbers. We start measuring the success of a practice by how many people they're seeing and all this stuff. And, am I paying my bills? So next thing you're like, I'll do anything for them in order for just to get them to stay. I mean, that's a dangerous place to be in practice.
Sure is.
Whereas if you can stand upon that, what the idea and concept is of what chiropractic brings forth to life, don't put yourself on the shelf of allopathic mechanisms. Don't have that conversation with them. I mean, that's the first mistake.
Yeah.
Be the uncola, like 7-Up was the uncola. Don't put yourself on the cola shelf. Put yourself on an entirely different shelf. Hey, we're here. A healthier spine is better life. Better life, longer life. You're going to live a better quality life. I can hear your body working better right now after adjustment. You hear that? You're making more immune cells right now. I just heard you make 3 white blood cells. I mean, having that conversation with somebody, say, wow, your duodenum's working better. I say that all the time, and people, they laugh, right? And you don't even know what your duodenum is. Ask somebody what their pancreas is. They don't even know what their pancreas is. But why not have a conversation so that they have an appreciation for an organ, and then have an appreciation for the fact that their organ, the only reason it knows what to do, or it's not a pile of dirt out in your front yard, is because your nervous system is talking to it.
Right.
But unless you set up the conversation, you never have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You have a great system of props in your
Yes.
office. You
Yeah.
want to talk
Carrot
about
Top.
maybe
We're
some of
Carrot
those?
Top.
Carrot Top. Yeah, I know Carrot Top.
That's what I've been called in my practice. My
That's
buddy
great.
Knight's a
Never heard of
Carrot
that.
Top.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So you want to share maybe some of those props that you
Yeah,
have?
well, I'll tell you why I started getting a lot of,
toothbrush and all those kind
I started getting a lot of props from Joe Felicia. I don't know if you've ever listened to
sure.
Dr. Hey, there you go. Dr. Joe Felicia's lay lecture. I don't know if you ever have a copy.
No,
I have
no.
it on video. It's a great, Joe Felicia was just the man. I just love that man. So, New Renaissance, if anybody, remembers that, but I still have all the tapes. But anyways, he would have all these props to help teach people. So we would use, we use a telephone wire to represent the nervous system. This is, you can get this at the hardware store. The beauty of this is, how many times you get somebody walk in your office and they say, Doc, it's radiating here, it's hurting here. Why is it here versus here? Well, there's your nervous system. So that nerve that's being pressed on by, what's it called when your spine's out? Ask them questions. Subluxate. That goes to your pinky toe. But understand, where do these nerves go? Well, I don't know. Well, this one right here, now you go to the autonomic chart. This one goes to your prostate and your large intestine. So what's being damaged right there? What's happening to the messages? Again, it just gives them a visual, because we think in pictures, it gives them a visual to understand what's going on. So that's one of the ones we use. We also, for those docs out there that you can get right on eBay, they're forceps. If you're over 40, about 45, 60%, 66% of births, depending on what study you read, were forceps births. So forceps were used. So you think about the trauma, 140 to 170 pounds axial pull to the cervical spine, so when to their subluxation. So if you're shy, just buy these with a baby model, right? And then you could put those right up on a shelf, you don't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
And somebody's going, what the hell you got over there? What do you got tongs for?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that. Here, hold on to the baby and let me show you what happened when you were born. And all of a sudden you start to engage in conversation. Sorry.
And that
you
creates,
start to engage in conversation.
that creates a guttural reaction every time. That makes me nervous every time you do that, Joe.
Yes.
It creates like, oh my gosh.
Well, docs are afraid to do that.
Yeah.
Why would you be afraid to say that when your spine's subluxated, it's a concern?
Yeah.
Why would you be afraid to say that?
Right.
Well, is it good to press on your nervous system? I mean, just call it out. Well, no. Is it good to stick a thumb on your spinal cord? No. What do you think C1 and C2 is doing right now when they're laterally shifted? What do you think's happening?
Yep.
Is that good for your nervous system?
No.
Why wouldn't you say significant, concern? Hey, that's serious. Isn't it serious? I think it's serious. Every scientific journal says it's serious, but we're afraid to say it's serious. We want to minimize it to make ourselves feel better because we're scared to own what we have. So we say, oh, Liam, it's a little bit out. It's slight.
Beautiful.
It won't be a problem. It's just mild. It's minimal. I see this all the time. Don't worry.
Not a big deal.
Well, what type of value are you going to put it? Well, shit, if it's
little bit.
if it's little and mild and slight, why am I here? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you have me come in? Why should I be in here for the rest of my life if it's minimal and slight? I mean,
No
it's
reason to
so
drive an hour to your office,
It's
right?
totally incongruent.
Yeah.
And then one of the best, you go to your dollar store and you just get a box of toothbrushes, and those are, I tell you, those are magical. Toothbrushes are magical because when you get those people, I don't know how much time we got, but the two examples I always talk about are the one that asks you to decrease the frequency of their care. That's probably one of the more common questions a lot of docs get. So they say, hey, doc, how much longer do I got to stay at 3? Or, can I cut down? And I'll say, I mean, first off, Frank, you can do whatever you want. So I immediately eliminate the wall, right? If I say, hey, look, you can do whatever you want, you immediately take that away, right? Because they can. I'm not going to say, no, you're out, right?
Your
so
choice.
I say, Frank, but let me ask you a question. Did you brush your teeth this morning?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. They laugh or whatever. Well, they must have been killing you.
Huh.
Well, no.
No.
No. Well, why'd you brush them?
To keep them clean and healthy.
Right. Are you going to do that tonight?
Yes.
Why do you do them twice a day? Why not do them once a day? Why not? I mean, what the hell? Push it out.
Right.
Go every week, once a week, brush your
Oh,
teeth,
my
like
goodness.
once. Why not?
No, because they'll fall out.
Well, you say they'll fall out, but why do you do it twice a day then? What's your reasoning to do it twice a day?
To keep them clean and healthy.
Is that the best way to take care of them? Is that why? Is that what you learned?
Yes.
Right. So do you remember what the concern was on the spine? Do you remember what damage was happening?
Yes.
Do you remember how long it's been there for?
Yes.
Do you remember how long it's going to take to correct?
Yes.
Right, so you understand all that, right? So the best way to move forward was that care recommendation we discussed. You understand that? So we can see you less, but what's the consequence of that? Just like your teeth, what's the consequence?
It's going to get bad.
Is it going to give you the best care?
No.
No, I was under the understanding you wanted the best care. Do you want the best care?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what should we be doing then?
Get my spine checked, Doc.
Right. Don't ever ask me that question again. I will smack. No, I'm just kidding. So that's a great question. The other one you'll get a lot of times is lifetime care, right? You'll say, well, geez, once you go to the chiropractor, you have to go. First off, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
But let me ask you a question. When you leave the dentist after your 6-month checkup, do you have that feeling too? Do you set up 6 months? Or do you say to the doc, listen, would you trust the doctor? Said, listen, Frank, we just spent about $3,000 on the teeth. We cleaned up the gum line, the enamel. It's looking good. We had to do a couple of fillings. We put a couple of veneers, did 2 root canals. Things are looking good, so we're up to about $5,000. I'll tell you what, at this point, don't brush, don't floss, don't do anything. And when they rot and get really bad again and start getting sick and diseased, come on back and we'll take care of you. I mean, does that even sound logical?
No.
No, so those are the questions that you have with people because they need to be able to see their own ignorance. Most of them can't see it. I don't say that in an insulting way, ignorance. Their lack of knowledge. They can't see how foolish that comment is. Hey, can I come in? Let me push it out. You'll get that, right? Hey, let me push it out. You got me once a week. Because I feel pretty good week to week. So let me push. Do you do that at the gym? Do you go in, geez, I'm in really good shape. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to push it out. I'm going to see how far I can push out going to the gym and still retain it. So I found, hey, I can go once a week or once every 2 weeks. I mean, they laugh because they realize it doesn't work that way. So those are the conversations that we get into with some of those props.
Brilliant. Well, I got to tell you, I know if you're watching at home, I'm just sitting here just absolutely impressed with the simplicity and the clarity of that type of communication that you have. No wonder you have a gigantic practice.
Well, now you know why I wore the Pharaoh hat. When
you learned a lot in Egypt. I got to tell you, it's great.
I will tell you, just to interrupt you.
Yeah, please.
We talk about big practices and all that stuff. Here's the reality of it. just like, success, and this with financially and what have you, that's the byproduct of doing something that you love, and you try to do it as great as you can do it. So, rather than focus on the money aspect, if you focus on being the best chiropractor you can be, hey, I'm going to be great at adjusting people, I'm going to be great at educating them. If you focus on that, I'm telling you, the way the universe works, the only thing that can happen is you're going to grow and serve more people. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's the beauty of biology and physics and universal law. So, but most docs don't do that. We treat our practice allopathically rather than chiropractically, right? We become reactionary in our practice. So we tell people not to live that way, yet we ourselves, oh my God, the office is slow. Oh, I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this, rather than, hold on, stop. Schedule your marketing calendar out a year. Are you setting up your own educational marketing or calendar? How are you educating yourself? Are you getting there once a week or once every day? How are you caring for your mind, the 6 inches between your ears, your certainty, your clarity, your ability to communicate? Are you spending any time and effort or money on you to make you, because you're the most valuable asset in the practice, are you spending time and money on you to make yourself better? That's where you need to do it. It's not the table, it's not the computer, it's you. When you make you great things happen. That's the reality of it.
Beautiful. Dr. Borio?
Yes, Dr. Liam Schubel.
Certainly a pleasure to
Always,
have you on the,
truly an
on
honor.
the call. And I got to tell you, this has been a great opportunity to sit with one of, in my view, the premier masters of the chiropractic profession. This is one of the benefits I think we always get, that we go to these type of events and we get to hear. By the way, he's just getting warmed up, I must tell you. I mean, you thought that was good. Wait till you see what's going to happen this weekend. Yeah, so Dr. Borio, how can people get in touch with you if they want more information about Chiroprassion Consulting or want to reach out and connect with you?
Sure. Well, as we talked about the fact I was watching that little clip you put on earlier. I said we're trying to leave it fun. Well, that's going to be pretty difficult. It's a full-time job, actually. We don't have nearly as big of an impression, a footprint on Facebook. But Facebook, Chiroprassion Consulting, you can go to Joe Borio. You can go on our website, chiroprassionconsulting.com. You can certainly look us up on the web. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. You can go on the Chiroprassion Consulting webpage, which is great. Or my email, which is drjoeborio@gmail.com. And you can call me in the office, Borio Chiropractic Health Center. If somebody wants to give us a call, give us a shout, and we'll be more than happy to share with you a little bit more about what we do, and love to have you come to one of the events. So.
Absolutely. Have a great event, too, this weekend. I'm really looking forward to sitting in and listening in.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Borio. Thank you for your generous donations always to Sherman College of Chiropractic and also the IFCO. Huge member of that organization as well. We appreciate it, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
And also thank you for
thank you.
funding yesterday too.
Yes.
Event. Yeah, it gave us
Did
the
you get the
opportunity.
check yet?
It gave us opportunity.
Thank
in the mail.
Yeah. Okay, let's go after him.
Exactly.
Well, folks, I got to tell you, I mean, are you blown away with that description of, the spine, the nervous system, how they affect the autonomics, the organs? I mean, the importance of regular chiropractic care. Absolutely brilliant.
That was a seminar all on its own.
That's it.
For you at home.
What a tremendous amount of value
right?
you just received watching this at home. Frank, I think that's going to wrap it up.
It's 4 o'clock. The time flies so fast.
Sure does. Yeah.
Well, it was a great season.
Sure
this
was.
This is the ending program for this season, season 3, another successful season.
All right.
And we're gonna be back again. I think in the spring next year. We're gonna do a couple more events. We're gonna try to get to an amped event. Michael Viscarelli.
Amped event with Michael Viscarelli.
We're gonna do another Lyceum. We're gonna be out at Schubel Vision.
Schubel Vision,
too.
Amsterdam. May
We're
6th and 7th.
IFCO Global Summit in Mexico. When is that one?
Yes, that's March 18th and 19th.
Yeah.
The IFCO.
Where in Mexico?
That's in Toluca.
Mexico.
And that's where it's kind of like the center of most of the chiropractic programs in Mexico. We'll probably have 200-300 students at that event. So it's going to be a great opportunity to connect with the future.
I wasn't aware. There's 3 chiropractic colleges in Mexico.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You got UNEVE, and Veracruz as well.
Right.
So
look for some of the IFCO-TV videos from our last Global Summit. They're going to be coming up soon. We're going to do some ones that haven't been broadcasted in a while, or if ever. So we're going to get back to those ones
Fantastic.
too. So look for those on our YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, it's youtube.com/IFCO-Chiro. Make sure you register there so you can get those weekly videos that get sent out there, and then look for them on Facebook. We'll be posting them out there as well.
Absolutely. So as always, a pleasure having you with us, and please feel free to share this on your social media. Every time a new IFCO program comes out, there's so many people around the world that need this mental food for their brain, right?
Absolutely.
This chiropractic for your brain. And IFCO Television, Dr. Frank Hahn, of course, the inventor of IFCO Television, the visionary. Thank you for providing that. It's been a
My
pleasure
pleasure.
sharing this experience with you this year, and let's
Likewise.
blow it out of the water next
Yeah,
year.
absolutely. And if you want to have any speakers or presenters or guests on the show, reach out to me or Liam. We'll see if we can get them on. If you have any events that you want us to come to, let us know that as well, and we'll see if we can get that on the schedule too. IFCO-TV is stronger than ever, and it's continue to go that way.
We'll fire up the CWD jet.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that too. All right, brother.
Great.
Great season.
Same.
Yep. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.